Right, everyone's just coming in now.
You know,
Morning, Marion. Morning, Anne-Marie. Afternoon, sorry, it's the afternoon now, isn't
afternoon.
it?
Been a long
It's the
day.
afternoon. Afternoon, everyone. Perfect. Right, I think everyone's coming across now in the waiting room. Hello, welcome everyone. We'll just wait for everyone to jump across from the waiting room. While you're waiting, there's a QR code just on your screens. If you wouldn't mind scanning that, I will put the web address in the chat bar as well. It's just an event registration for today, so that we can continue. The information is just about you and your business. It goes off to the Department of Trade and to our business support managers, just to give us a bit of information about yourself. Um, were you sharing
Well,
again, Mike?
I have no idea what happened there, but something has. There you go. How's that?
There you go.
Fine.
Um, yeah, just a bit of information about yourself and your business, just that we can give you personalised support following on from today, and the Department of Trade knows who we're supporting, so we can continue delivering these workshops for you for free. So I'll put that in the chat in a second, actually. Just wait one more minute for everyone to come through. I think. In the chat for everyone. Right, if we get started, if that's okay with everyone. Um, good afternoon, everyone. Hope everyone's got the nice sunny weather that we've got here today. Yeah, big thank you to everyone for coming this afternoon, joining us online, for our Kent and Medway Growth Hub workshop, all about your high street businesses, getting the customers through the doors. Yeah, I'm Sarah. I work with Smarter Society and we deliver the Kent and Medway Growth Hub contract. And we've got Mike and Paul, our experts on the high street, delivering our workshop for us today. Um, we are recording this workshop today, so it will be on the YouTube later today slash potentially tomorrow. So there is anything, don't feel like you've got to frantically scribble every note. It will all be available on YouTube after. Yeah, before I pass over to Mike and Paul, I just wanted to let you know a bit about the Kent and Medway Growth Hub. So we provide free and impartial advice to businesses across the region. So sorry, whether you're a company just looking to start out or you're looking to scale up, the hub basically is a one-stop shop for everything you can think of business related. So if you need one-on-one consultations with experienced business advisors, accessing the latest funding options, applying for a grant, we run workshops and networking events. Yeah, we are a one-stop shop, everything business related in Kent for small and medium-sized businesses. Obviously today is an online event, so I hope everyone's got a nice hot cup of tea and comfy and ready to sort of learn about how to attract all those, perfect, Mike, how to
Yeah.
attract all those customers into your high street businesses. So I will pass over a second. It'll be about sort of 45-minute presentation, and then we'll do a Q&A at the end. If you've got questions, just pop them in the Q&A function box. Just put them in throughout the presentation if there's anything you think of, in case you're like me and your brain goes to mush when it comes to asking questions. And then we'll just go through them all at the end. Yeah. And then we're looking to finish up about 2 o'clock today. So I hope that's okay for everyone. And I will hand over to Mike and Paul now.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Sarah. Hello, everyone. Welcome along today. Whilst we can't see you, we know you're online, and we welcome any questions, any comments. If you've got anything specific, if there's something that's bothering you or a particular issue that you're facing, please do ask away. So Mike and I have been running an SME for over 30 years. We know how tough it can be sometimes. And it's probably fair to say that it's tougher now than it has been pretty much any opportunity over those 30 years, apart from possibly COVID, when we couldn't actually open for trade. So we are experts in business support. We have helped literally thousands of businesses over the years, combination of one-to-many support such as today, but also in-person one-to-many, and also individual one-to-ones. In fact, we're currently working across the Kent and Medway region, supporting individual businesses on a weekly basis. So we're familiar with the issues that you're facing. So what we want to do is we take a positive approach, which is do the things you can. Don't worry about the things you can't do. Parking prices are going up. People are using the supermarkets. You can't do anything about that. What you can do is you can evolve your business, and you can do everything you can to try and improve your turnover. So over the next 4 weeks, we're going to be taking one topic each week. Today's quite an easy one, and next week is also closely related. So they're all different. So please do come along, join us at the other ones, and also please do, if you have any business sort of in your network or any peers, neighbours that you also think it might be useful, please do invite them along. So in terms of today, we're going to focus on there are two ways to increase turnover in your business. One, you attract more customers. Secondly, you encourage them to spend more. Ideally, you do both. The second part of that we're going to talk about next week. Today, we're going to focus on all the things you can do, the tools you have, the techniques you can do to try and bring more people through the door, more bums and seats. That's far too much introduction from myself. Mike, could you go to the next page, please? And the one thing that I would say is please make sure you've got a piece of paper. Make sure you've got something you can write on. It could be a phone, it can be a tablet. Mike and I are old school, so we tend to use pen and paper. And as we go through today's session, there will be lots of things that we highlight, that we touch on, that will be useful and appropriate for your business. So please make a list of your action sheet. We would hope by the time you finish, you have at least 10 actions, specific things that you can try and think about in regards to your business. But if you do have any questions, please do ask away in the chat facility or the Q&A. Right, Mike, over to you.
Thank you very much. Paul, as usual with these things, Paul's already nicked one of my favourite lines. We're simple folk. We're both retailers by background and training. Many years ago, when I had hair that actually had some colour in it, I ran variety stores, I ran department stores, I set up a chain of gift gadget and gizmo shops in the 80s. And then for the last 32 years, we've been sort of sharing our knowledge and helping small businesses to grow and actually helping some of the biggest brands on the planet to grow, which does always makes Paul and myself pinch ourselves that we're a micro SME and we've worked for the likes of Sony, Toyota, HSBC, to name but a few, and as well as at the other end of the scale, we created the first ever national training program for market traders. And one of the things that we talk about is we really keep it simple. There are only two ways, and people can apply you with lots of science and rocket science and mystique and all sorts of things, but fundamentally, you either sell more to more customers or you sell more to your existing customers. And today, as Paul said, we're just going to focus on the selling to more customers. And there are some simple tools in the books. If we'll assume that as we're under the headline of High Street, we'll assume that you've got premises. If you haven't got premises, then put it in the chat and we can give you some relevant examples for those. But it's about using the exterior of your business. Making sure that the promotions you deliver are being noticed. Don't forget opportunities for remote signage, be that physical and increasingly the virtual remote signage. And on that vein, one of the key things that we spend a lot of time talking to businesses about is how you proactively use social media. We live in a world of recommendations, by and large, most businesses, the recommendations they get are the accidental. They're going to happen anyway. There's one thing that we throw out to businesses. It's your job to make it easy for the customer to recommend you. So think about how you do that. How do you, and it's different for different businesses, and I'll touch on a few examples. And then the last thing is reasons to buy. More than ever, customers are looking for particular reasons to choose a business, to choose to spend. It isn't always about price. I was in a North Kent town, I won't mention which one, and when I asked on Friday, I asked the business owner, what are the strengths of your business? 3 reasons why people come into you. The first thing she said, me. And then she laughed, slightly embarrassed. And I said, that's fantastic. People want to buy from personalities. And, if you're not using that, then, there are lots of ways to use it. Anyway, right, moving on. Where to start? I mean, the aim is we want to attract more customers. And, and a favorite question of ours, and, if there isn't one takeout from this conversation, this workshop, take a few minutes to think about what are the strengths of your business. What do you perceive as the strengths? And then separately, what do you think your customers perceive as the strengths? And by the way, never be afraid to ask them, your regulars, your repeat customers. Now, and the strengths can be like the business that I mentioned, me, the owner, but the strengths can be anything from the service you provide, the exclusive products that you have, the brands that you have, the times of day that you trade, your team, your staff, the personality of the business, or it could just be that you're in a great location. You happen to be on the route between the town's major destination and the town's busiest car park. You might have picked that place deliberately, or it might have been by luck and fortune, but sometimes you can just be a convenient location. Years ago, we worked for Kodak in the days when these things had little bits of film that you put inside them. Yes, that long ago. And Kodak used to say, we're a destination business. Our consumers are ABC1 shoppers. And we turned around and said, no, they're not. Your consumers are the people on the high street, and people come to you because you're convenient. You're a convenience-based business. Yes, you, the brand, can wax lyrically about the chemicals you use and the quality of the processing, but fundamentally, it's about you happen to be close to where they work, you happen to be close to where they socialize, whatever. So, think about what are those strengths of my business? And then the next question is, how do you use those strengths? How do you use them? So, how do you use those strengths in regard to your customers? So that's one piece of paper, one column. Next thing is, who are your customers? What sort of people are they? Are they regulars? Are they repeat? Do they come to you at a certain time of day? Are they always buying the same thing from you? Because if they are, then there's an opportunity we'll come back to next week about how do you increase that transaction value? When are you busiest? Are they visiting you? Are you a weekend destination? Are you a weekday shopper? Does it change? One of the interesting points from COVID and the learnings, and we tend to see every day as a school day, is that customer habits changed, customer patterns changed, the type of customers changed. We had coffee shops telling us that their weekend customers were now coming to them during the weekday because they'd started working from home and they'd stayed working from home. They suddenly had their sort of singletons coming in as families, and so they adapted their offer accordingly. And then, sorry, Paul, were you going to?
No, I was just going to say, if you're wondering why it's important to understand what your strengths are, it's because those are the reasons why your existing customers use you. And if they're using you for those reasons, that means that other people are very likely to use you for the same reasons.
Yeah.
The more you think about your customer, why they use you, what the strengths are, what are the things they say, those are the things to use in your outbound marketing activity, because there's every chance there's going to be lots more of those sort of customers either in your town, passing the building, in the town centre, and if it works for some, it will work for others as long as you tell them.
I can mention this town because it's not a Kent, but in Oxford, again, where we had a one-to-one business with a curious high street business. They were a care provider, but they had offices on the high street. And I had a conversation with the business owner, and we sort of went through this. What are your strengths? As you could tell, it's a pretty standard question that Paul and I use. And what are your strengths? Why do your customers choose to use you? And we identified three from the owner's perspective, and funny enough, three different ones from the consumer. And initially, she thought that was a weakness, and I said, no, that's the strength, because you've now got 6 things that you can shout about. And I asked a very simple question. I said, if I turn up to the outside of your premises, are those strengths represented in some way from the outside of the business? Is it obvious? And I said, not that you don't have to have a list saying these are our strengths, but you can imagery about the quality of the training, imagery about the quality of the care, imagery about the history of the business. And she said, no, it's not. And then I said, so, okay, when I come to your website, on the landing page of the website, not buried deep inside, but on the landing page, are those strengths represented? No. I said, okay. And then I said, right, well, think about the customer contact points. When do you engage with your clients or new clients or the families of clients and would-be clients? And she said, oh, yeah, I've got a very nice office and that we welcome them in. There's parking outside the front. So I said, okay, well, when you're having that conversation, what's on the wall behind you? I mean, as you can see, I don't follow my own rules because I've got pictures of golf. But what's on the wall behind you? And she said, I'm going to go and check. I don't know. I've never thought about it. And when I went into her premises later that day, and she walked me through, showed me the training room, showed me this, showed me that, showed me the fact that there wasn't, even in their reception area, there was a nice cabinet of awards they'd won for their care, but it didn't say awards for our care or award-winning care. When we got to her office, she stopped me and said, that's what's on the wall behind my desk, a calendar. Nothing about the strengths of the business, nothing about. So when, as Paul says, he gave me the clue to remind you of it. These strengths are identified so that you can use them to promote your business to more passers-by, more people that the business engage with at whatever the customer contact point is. So, and it's the same, we ask these questions because they provide us and you as the business with information to use to help target your promotions, target your ongoing window messages, target your staff training, target what you're putting out on your socials, what you're putting out on your website. So there's a point about thinking about who the customers are, and then our favorite topic is, why do they buy from you? Why are these? And it comes back to understanding the reasons that people buy from you, because increasingly people are choosing to buy and to use businesses because of particular reasons. And so, there may well be a group of habit and loyalty. Another business I spoke to last week had been trading for 54 years, providing glass repair and glazing services in a certain part of North Kent. And, and they had a lot of habit, generational habit and loyalty. They provided fantastic service. Their online reviews were off the scale. People were complimenting by name their fitters and installers. And these are, tremendous reasons to use when you're thinking about how do you promote, how do you share that knowledge about your business. And it's about how you give the businesses more reasons to come to choose you.
So if you haven't written any actions down, this is a good slide to start, because we've just given here 8 reasons why people may use you, are likely to use you. Use this information in your social media and your promotional activity, whether you've got a fixed shop, whether you're working from home or you've got a unit. Basically, give people these reasons. So, simple thing, it's Easter in 3 weeks. If you've got anything that you sell according to Easter that's Easter related, you should be pushing it now. If you haven't, think about something differently that you've done, a new product that you start stocking, a new service that you start providing. Tell everyone that. If you haven't done anything different, but people are still using you because you're convenient, you're on the route, you've got lots of people passing you, again, use that. So there are lots and lots of tools and information already at your disposal. And these are things that don't have to cost a lot of money. We're not suggesting you have to do loads of paid for Facebook advertising. These are all things within your control. And we haven't necessarily said it explicitly yet, but one of the main reasons why people use you is you. So use you, your personality, your stories, your interests. And it doesn't always have to be about the business. It can be, oh, we've just got a new member of the family. Welcome to the puppy, or whatever it might be. Just basically, it helps to differentiate you as an independent business, and that's what people like.
And Paul, I probably, just in case I forget to mention this when we come on and talk a bit about social media, I'm going to give an example now. My simple brain works in real world examples. We were with a cycling shop in Worcester Park, South London, a part of an ongoing long-term business support program. Husband and wife owned the business, and they'd been trading for 15, 20 years, had a good reputation, had sort of seen the changes in their business, and it was built up to Christmas, and they were bemoaning the fact that it wasn't like the old days when people bought bikes for Christmas anymore. But they had a fantastic bike repair and servicing side to their business, and with huge profit margin out of doing this, and particularly when people are spending a lot of money on bikes. So anyway, I was there, and the wife, the husband, and the key bike mechanic were repairing a bike, and because it was built up to Christmas, they had their Santa hats on, and they had a bike on the repair stand. And the lady was saying, the co-owner was saying, oh, we're not very good at social media. We never know what to post, and sometimes it comes across as boring. And I said, that's your social media post. And she looked at me and said, what? I said, picture of those two in their Santa's hat repairing a bike, and all you've got to say is, give your bike a Christmas present. And she looked at me and she went, really? I said, yeah, that's it. So that's what they did. They put it out there. They had 18 family members respond and say, my dad, my husband, my boyfriend needs this. And so from nothing, it was a just using an asset, creating a sales opportunity. Right,
Mike,
sorry.
we probably need to move on because
okay, I'm moving.
We're halfway through. We've only got another sort of 15 minutes of actual talking.
We've got plenty of time. Right, so we've looked at who might be already coming into you, but of course the flip side is, and most businesses, it's a sort of a simple truism, but most businesses, when you go through this process, actually identify that there are a lot more of their existing customers that they can target. Most businesses haven't saturated the market, no. Right? However, there are times when you might need to go, oh, do you know what? I'm pretty damn sure that everybody of that type is already buying from me. So then the next step is to think about who isn't buying from me. Why not? What can I learn about them? What sort of people are buying? Am I doing a good job at converting the people who are passing by? What's my capture rate? Can I find out what the footfall information is for the street, for the town? Compare that to my business, and what sort of people? What sort of people are there lots of in the town that I'm not appealing to? If that becomes large numbers and big opportunity, then you probably need to think about, how do I pivot my business? What do I need to change about my external messaging? How do I start to target them? And if we come on to that actually in 3 workshops time, where we talk about adapting and growing and planning for growth. But there are things that you can start to think about, simple, small things that starts to say, well, there are, I don't know, say every day I get a whole chunk of students walking by, they don't register. Is there anything that I can change about my business and my messaging to start to appeal to them, providing I've got a product that will sell to them? So just think about some of the big, easy steps to think about the additional customer types.
Okay.
And then in terms of attracting new customers, and probably, well, to be fair, I think we've probably touched on most of these already, but we have one phrase that we probably use in every single business contact we have, which it revolves around make it easy for the customer. And all too often, businesses forget that. It almost needs to be the sense check about everything you do is, if I do X, does that make it easy for the customer? If I block the parking outside the front of my business with staff parking, am I making it easy for the customer? No. If I can reserve that parking or for the customer, then yes, I start to. But actually, am I making it easy for the customer to find me, to choose to buy from me, to understand what I'm promoting? That I'm in tune with their needs? Am I clearly telling them all the things that I can possibly offer, all the things that I can do, particularly if you can offer value added and added services? How effectively am I using my window? And I'll come on to some simple checks that you can do for that. And am I over promoting? Have I adopted by accident the wallpaper approach, where I'm trying to sort of promote 15 different things and I've just got selling messages everywhere to the point where it becomes painful to look at and people stop noticing? So,
Mike, if I can also basically, having done quite a lot of work for London Transport at the time, now TfL, one of the key lessons we've learned from them is you've got a window of about 10 seconds to get your message across when people are walking past your shop. So therefore, whatever messages you are sending out to people, they need to be really easy to read. They need to be big enough. They don't need to be too long, 4 or 5 words maximum, and they need to be very easy to see. So if they're covered by all sorts of clutter and Libaro signage and so on, then again, the message is going to get lost. So another good way of checking that is get one of your friend, family, neighbouring business to stand on the other side of the road and say to them, what do we sell? What's our best sellers? Why should people come in? Is it price? Is it quality? Is it what we sell? And again, depending on what they tell you, that's also something which will give you some very clear messaging to use on your external either windows or outbound social media activity if you don't have a fixed premise. Oh, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it was interesting. I just on that using windows and it's the thing that we do all the time. I go back to the one of the businesses that I was with in North Kent on Friday. Simple question. We just asked, what do you sell most of? What are the, and this was a business that had some fashion, it had some footwear, it had accessories, had some jewelry. It was very nicely presented, beautifully done inside the shop. Very professional owner. And I said, so what do you sell most of? And she said, ladies' wear. About 70% ladies' wear. So I went and I said, okay, interesting. So we went outside the shop, and she had roughly, I would say, I don't know, 30 feet of frontage on a corner. So 15 feet at the front, doorway, 15 feet at the side. And we walked around and I said, okay, have a look at your window and roughly what percentage of your window space is given to clothing? 10%. So I said, so your dominant sales category has got very little representation in your window. And you've already said you'd love to get people to understand and know that you sell, that you sell more ladies' wear. So it was this. Sometimes our job is as simple as pointing out, stating the bleeding obvious, according to my wife. But by getting her to use the external windows in a more productive way and make more of a representation. And that's before we started to talk about signage and information. You know, she had a fantastic pre-love department in the cellar, which hardly had any representation in the window. So, you know, there's all sorts of things. It's just simple tactics, simple actions that are based on the strengths of your business. So, we're a consultancy. We live our life with tables and charts, and you know, and here, this is what we've tried to do here is a simple thing. You know, it's like, what do we know about our customers, and that's listed in the customer insight, and then okay, so if we know those things, what are the sort of growth actions that we can tap into? You know, if you've got a strong worker population, then you know, am I doing things to actually target the workers? We had one other Kent business that used to have a very successful, every time she had a new season of merchandise, just, you know, a bubbles and nibbles evening, where she invited her regular clients. And the bit that really stuck with me was that they were personally invited, but they were always asked to bring a friend. So she was instantly doubling her customer base. So I think that, you know, there are some simple tactics that you can use here, and then apply the same approach to the non-customer insight. So this is the insight I'm learning. These are the actions I could be trying, and really, one of the things I learned as a retailer is that retailers are rubbish at testing and trying things. It was when I worked for a mail order business, and they test all the time. Because they can measure the response rate for an advert on a website or an advert on the page. And us retailers always go, well, you know, the weather was off, or there wasn't many people using the car park. So, yeah, don't be afraid to test and try things. So now, if we were there with you in person, we'd be wandering around looking at your action list and seeing if you'd written any down. And so we're just going to hope that you can. And then, but by the way, these are two other images that are a pet topic of ours. Is that, you know, lots of businesses forget to remind their customers, and also their non-customers, i.e., all the people that just pass by, of which there are typically, you know, thousands, compared to the number that come into the shop. That they forget to remind people of, this is what we do. These are the services we provide. And if you launch a new service, make sure that you actually include the new service. As one of my favourite examples was a very high-end, high-quality, and not very cheap dry cleaners. And the dry cleaners had inside their store had lots of very good, very professionally produced promotional material about their new delivery and collection service, after having 20 plus years of not doing so. And then on the window, all they had was a banner, open as usual. And they forgot to, you know, which is completely the opposite of, we've launched something new.
Mike, we've had a question in the Q&A, which is, would we recommend using pavement signs as well as window display? And if so, how often would you update these? Okay.
If we can put to one side the whole pavement licenses, if you've got permission, this is being recorded, so I better not go with my normal line, which is do it until until somebody tells you that you can't. But you know, a big believer in external messaging. Big believer in if you're allowed to use pavement signs, then definitely use them. But as the question's already started to say, change them, because any window display or any external message which becomes permanent, static, eventually becomes wallpaper. So if I go back one, these menus of services, the photographer's got a great idea here, because these are vinyl strips that they can change, like the old hymn board in the church, whereas unfortunately, you know, the key cutters are pretty much stuck. That these are, you know, this is a long-term sign and it won't be able to change. And actually, you can see that the design and creative eye of the photographer is even using different fonts so that it actually starts to stand out better. But if I come back to the question, definitely use pavement. And also, the other thing that we recommend is sometimes simple hanging signs that are demountable, even if you can hang them on the angle, because most people forget that actually it's the side return of the window, not the front face, it's the side return of the window that has the longest visibility as people walk by. So if you can replicate that on the outside and have things slightly at an angle, then that will have more impact and more visibility.
Yeah, quite. What you could do is you could have 2 or 3 options for your pavement signs and then just alternate them every other week. It's something for my sins. When I graduated from uni, I ended up working for Tesco, and one thing that Tesco did was they change the location of their what's called their KVIs, known value items, so things like bread, milk, eggs, jams, things like that. So they consciously move them around every 6 weeks so that people don't get in the same shopping pattern of grabbing this, grabbing that blindfold. They've got to manually go, eggs have moved, where's the eggs? Oh, and then as you move around, you then buy other stuff. So yeah, don't keep the same signs up for any more than a couple of weeks. Move them around, vary them. You can always go back to them in rotation. So yeah, good idea.
Okay, right.
Right, we've got to crack on.
Okay, so in terms of attracting, cost effectively, social media and comms, the benefit of these is that they are cheap to do. They take time. That's where a lot of small businesses struggle. They take time. And we'll come on to the sort of things in a minute that you can be and probably should be promoting, but it is certainly worth investing the time. Any time that you've got down period, you can start to put out messages, but it doesn't just need to be, oh, we're selling a new pen. I mean, because that becomes boring. But actually, my dog's just had some puppies, particularly if it's a dog that they see in the shop every now and then, or if it's or we're about to launch a new range, or we've done a new service, or even if next week I've taken I'm going to be taking part in the school fete or whatever. I've got to stand there. Anything that where you are building a bond with the community and you're actually giving your community more reasons to think about you and to talk about you are good examples to put into the social media and your comms. As we actually say here, use your external messaging, which includes that. I think that, and as Paul has said, equally, it's got to be quick to read, quick to understand. I'll give one quick example, Paul. Sorry. These things are very difficult to see in a window. Okay, when there are lots of them. They're mainly glass, and people tend to buy them by the frame. They want a particular designer frame. There was a photographer. We haven't got the picture in this presentation, have we, Paul? No. All right. Okay. So, photographer in one of the ports down on the coast that we were down in Kent, that actually decided that he wasn't getting any impact in his windows. And what he did is he got a giant inflatable green crocodile, which of course is the logo for Lacoste. He sold Lacoste frames, and then he had huge green crocodile. He glued onto the crocodile a set of specs, and then next door he had a very nice trio of glass shelves with 3 spectacles on each shelf, and it just said quite simply Lacoste. And all of a sudden people were stopping. They were stopping to laugh, and because it was a giggle, but actually they noticed him. So sometimes it's just, as Paul said, stand across the road. If nobody's looking, you've got to do something different. You've got to create that impact. Besides which, more often than not, the shop front is probably the most expensive part of your fit out. It's certainly the most expensive area that you pay rent. It's the maximum rent per square foot, the shop front. So make sure you're using it.
Absolutely, and don't feel you have to do this every day. We're not suggesting every hour you beat yourself up, and because you're not doing enough activity. Something that you can do, once a week, a couple of times a week. You can, it's just a good practice to be proactive about it. So at the start of each month, think, right, what am I going to be doing over the next few weeks to try and get more customers in? What are the messages I'm either going to be displaying externally, or I'm going to be using to talk to people, or in social media. So it's a good discipline to always think about the next thing. How am I going to get the next group of customers? How am I going to get them to come back? How can I make it really easy for them to remember me, recommend them to their friends, and then come back?
And then in terms of using word of mouth, this comes back to my opening comment. It's your job as the business to think about how do you make it easy for your customer to recommend you. One business we supported was a sports massage therapy business, and the owner there, what we suggested, old school, where she gave out appointment cards and business cards. We said, give your regular clients 10 business cards, put a code so if it's Sarah Jane, she gets SJ01 to 10, and say to her, if any of your friends or any of your sports team colleagues or any members of your team need sports therapy and you're happy to recommend me, give them this card. They come to see me, you will get 15 minutes extra on your next treatment. And she looked at me slightly quizzically. And then when we spoke to her 3 months later, she said, I've had 5 people over the last 3 months. I mean, it's not huge, but it's 5 people, new clients that have come to her as a direct result of being given a card. And also, she has 5 clients who are now super happy because they've got 15 minutes extra. Notice it's giving added value, not giving a discount.
Let's move on, Mike. We've got about 5 more slides and about 5 more minutes of talking.
Okay, right. So I think this is a good one because some of these we've already touched on. But in terms of promotion, social media, videos and pictures are gold dust. And sometimes the videos and the pictures are the most simple things that you can do. It's, you may have stumbled across Spudman, he started off simply videoing himself doing preparing the fills and the fixes for his baked potatoes. Roll forward a few years and he has millions of followers. When he puts an event on in his town in the Midlands, it causes the council a headache because of the traffic problems. I'll end that story there. But, absolutely be relevant and be up to date. Be in keeping with what the consumer is expecting to see. Be part of that psyche. Be part of the seasonality calendar, whether it's Mother's Day, whether we've gone past Valentine's Day, whether it's Easter, whether it's summer, whether it's back to school. There are things that you need to be relevant. Otherwise, people will just walk past you. They won't recognize that you're there. Comes back to this, as we said, build on your strengths, give people the reasons to choose to come to you, and then make sure they know how and when they can buy from you. That's one of the key things as well, that increasingly people, because one of the things that's happened in the last 5 years is that opening hours and opening times for businesses have started to scatter and vary across the town centre. So be sure to include your customers on your journey about when they can buy from you.
If you're going to do something different or you're going to do something new, remind the customer. Don't forget to share that with the customer. Don't assume they're automatically going to be, getting the message.
I mean, and then some simple rules of thumb for those that have got windows. If you're selling small products, make sure they're close and people can see them. All too often, we've worked with jewelry businesses where you're standing there on the outside looking at the window. Customer comes next to you and bangs their head on the glass. When I've had that, the jeweler laughs, and I go, well, and then you think about it, and that's because people are focused in on the jewelry item and they forget there's a piece of glass there and they want to get closer to see it. So do it the other way. Make it easy for the customer, make it easy for them to see it. Don't have your windows dark. Okay, we're blessed with some blue sky today, but most days of the year we're not. Make sure it stands out. And then do that thing where you get noticed. I think some of this is, in terms of when we talk about 6 word of mouth actions, we've talked about the rewarding customers for recommending you with a value added. One of the things that we've seen the same North Kent business that had the bubbles and nibbles evenings, when I went into her store, which had way too much stock, and my challenge was trying to tell her how to thin out some of her stock. But on a till point, she had an A4 photo frame that in it had half a dozen, 8 pictures of ladies of a certain age. She was a ladies' wear retailer, all standing there, having done a selfie. Here's me going to the races. Here's me going to the wedding. Here's me going on the cruise, whatever it is. And and I said, "What's this?" She said, "Oh, that's the club." And she said, basically, unprompted by me, but as the advent of these things and the obsessions with selfies, said, my customers love to send me a picture of something they've bought from me when they're wearing it. And she said, all I do is I cut it out, I print them off, cut them out, put them in the frame. If they're in the club, the frame of the club, and they come into the store and they sit and their picture's there, she said, they will get either 10% off or they'll get a multiple discount for buying 2 items. And I said, you're a genius. You're a marketing genius. And I am going to nick that idea and share it with loads and loads of people. We now talk to lots of people about having their wall of fame. And the wall of fame does 2 things. One, it tells new customers that you've got customers who actually buy from you and like you and want to share their experience. But it also makes your existing customers feel even better about their experience of buying from you because they are being praised and recognized and rewarded for a bit of their loyalty to you. So it works in lots of ways, and we can talk about this for hours.
Mike, just before we sort of come to the final slide, can I just say to everyone, if you have got any questions, if you've got any burning issues concerning your business, please do put them in the chat now because we're going to be wrapping up in a few minutes. So that'll give us time to talk them through if appropriate. So please do, in the Q&A or the chat facility, please do let us know any questions you've got. Go on, Mike.
Yeah, and I mean, one last thing about we talk here on this the top right hand comment. Ask your client for feedback. In 3 businesses I've been into in the last 10 days, the request for feedback is being asked before they've bought anything. And I've gone, actually, you need to think about when you do that, because otherwise it backfires on you. So actually think about the customer journey and think about what's the customer want in certain parts of the customer journey, and then handle your feedback request accordingly. Don't go in too early. And then in terms of, as Paul has said, just as a part of a quick, simple wrap up, because it's been pretty punchy all the way through. Our favorite line, make it easy for the customer. Put them absolutely at the forefront of what you're trying to do. I'm planning a promotion for blah. Will that make it easy for the customer to buy blah? Will I have enough stock? Will I make it obvious? Will I be putting that promotion on my website? Will it be in the window? Will it be in the front as people come in? Will my team talk about it? So make it easy. Second thing, why are people choosing to your business and to buy from you? Take time just to step back, have a think about that. Discuss it with the team, ask your spouse, ask your regulars, and then use that information. Use it as a building block for ongoing promotion. And then, the final one is that, how can you make some small tweaks, some small changes to your business? Adaptations, there is the word. Thank you. We've only worked together for about 30 years. So how can you make these adaptations just to make it easier for different customers to choose to come to you? The key thing is that those different customers will come to you because of what you know to be your strengths from your existing customers. So use those strengths. And that's probably...
Thank you, Mike. Well done. Final word from me is don't ever, ever forget the importance of you to your business. That's why people use you. And we get bombarded on a daily basis by inane adverts from multiples, via social media, via some of the sort of social channels. And people use you because of you. And if you have something to say, they will trust you and listen to you. So they're used to taking advice in terms of new products, new services, things to buy, why buy a particular thing. Don't ever hold back and underestimate your worth to your business. Thank you.
Over to you. So actually, yeah, I'll skip forward because there is other business support via the Kent and Medway Growth Hub, and I'm sure Sarah will be all over that now.
Yeah, I will send out those links to everyone in the follow-up email. I think Daphne, you put your hand up. Were you able to use the chat function or to send your message? If you type it, I messaged you, so see if you can type it in the chat or on the Q&A section. So I think we had a question from you. Denise has said, do you link your social marketing for customers with the online storefront one?
Yes. Consistency is key. If you think about whilst we can moan about the big retailers, but if you think about how they deliver their promotional activity and how they maximize the bang per buck, is that, McDonald's, bless them, love them or loathe them. If it's meal deals, then it will be meal deals on the side of buses, it will be meal deals on their website, it will be meal deals on the windows, it will be meal deals on the menu boards, and even the staff will be wearing a badge that says meal deals. If it's boots and it's 3 for 2, it's the same. There's a classic 5-step process. So yes, is the short answer.
Perfect, thank you. Don't know if Daphne got that message. I've got a question. Would you link up with other local businesses on your high street for these sort of promotion things? Would that work as well? Or is it better to sort of...
This is one of Paul's pet topics, so I'm going to let him answer.
I think basically, short answer is yes. The more that you can bounce off each other, the more you can recommend each other, the more you can, or if you need that, try X over there. But also, it's just great to have a bit of peer support as well. So, that can be done obviously, face to face. It can be a sort of semi-organized sort of coffee morning, local retailer association, or it can just be a lot of people, a lot of businesses now have WhatsApp groups. And I think the problem with WhatsApp is sometimes it's easy for the keyboard warriors to dominate. So if you are going to be buddying up with people in your local area to look at the opportunities to increase your performance, make sure the messages is positive. Make sure it's actually about sort of embracing change rather than moaning about car parking. So there's lots to be done. And one of my favorite stories, it's something that I know a few people do, is having sort of not necessarily a mentor as such, but just having buddies who you're in similar situations with, whereby once every couple of months, just take dogs for a walk, take the kids out, go for a beer after work, whatever it might be. And the more you can say, well, I've tried that, I'm still not getting the footfall I was hoping for. Can you think of any other ideas? The more you can sort of share and develop those ideas with other people, it's going to help you and help them as well with their business. So 100%, you're not in it by yourself, and absolutely feel free to engage and share.
There was one of the funny enough, I had the same question last week in Herne Bay. One of the businesses there said, we've got loads of new houses being built on the edge of the town. And she said, and you can almost see the people moving in who just go, oh, I'm near Canterbury. And because they're on the edge of the town near the motorway network, dual carriage network, they jump in the car and go to Canterbury. And she said, I was thinking of doing some leaflets. And I said, better still, team up with your neighbours and promote the street.
Yeah.
Promote all the businesses on the street. It's going to be more cost effective, but actually it will give people, comes back to that, multiple reasons. So rather than just come to me because I'm a whatever retailer, but if you come to our street because we've got 15 businesses, then you've got a greater chance they'll come. Once they're there, they'll then look at the rest of the street and away you go. So absolutely, buddy programs are super effective, and for all sorts of reasons.
And sorry, Sarah, just before we go, just to remind everyone that the next workshop is at the same time next week. Each of the 4 workshops we're doing are different. Each one has a different theme, all around the principle of helping you to develop your business, to move it on, things you can do to increase performance. And next week is going to be, in some ways, it's actually a bit easier next week than today, because it's easier for a business to encourage your existing customers to spend more with you than it is to attract and target new customers. Obviously, the secret is to do them both at the same time. But basically, next week is about increasing spend from your existing customers. So please do come along for that. Sorry, Sarah, I just wanted to remind
Yeah.
everyone
No,
that
it's
they're
perfect.
different themes, and all these themes are based on what businesses tell us, or the information and the themes that they want to see.
Yeah. So next week's the delivering excellent customer service. Yeah, like Paul said. So same time, 1 o'clock till 2 o'clock again on Monday. I will email you the details for that. And then we've got the successful promotion techniques and adapt or face declining sales as well. So we've got the 4-part series over the next 4 weeks. So I will send everyone the details for those as well. Just want to say thank you so much for everyone taking the time to sort of reflect on your businesses, on your high street businesses, and how to increase those sales, really. And thank you so much to Mike and Paul for sharing your expertise. There's loads of really good sort of really easily, what's the word I'm looking for? Um,
Actionable,
Actionable, those
implementable.
are the words. Really actionable things in there that we can take away and really start implementing straight away into businesses. So I hope that everyone's got some really good notes and scribbles, and the scribblier than the notes, the better the workshop, I always think. So I hope everyone's found that really useful today. I will pop a little link in the chat just to a quick 6-question survey about today, and I'll email it out to everyone as well. If you don't mind just taking 2 minutes, literally, just to do that so that we can keep delivering amazing workshops to everyone.
Hopefully, one of those 6 questions is, how many actions did you identify?
Yeah. How many actions have you identified? What are you going to put into place from today? That is one of my questions, actually, Mike.
All right, good.
Not sure. What's your key takeaways? What are you going to implement straight away? So just to sort of reflect even further on your business. Daphne, I will email you because I can see you put your hand up again, but I can't see what you've typed. So I will send you an email post this session. But yeah, thank you everyone so much for joining. And like Michael Paul said, we've got the 3 upcoming workshops. This was number 1.
Yep.
And also if you're in Dover or Thanet, we will be coming to you for networking in the next month or so. So I will send you all those details to that as well. But have a lovely afternoon, everyone, and enjoy the sunshine. Thank you so much, Mike and Paul.
Great. Thanks, Sarah. Well done.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Right, I've sent it for the attendees, but thank you so much.
Was that okay?